As you watch your beloved wife being taken away by one of the most powerful men on the planet, you find yourself paralyzed. Words escape you, and even the 50 senators seated around you seem to be caught in a spell of shock, their wine cups trembling nervously in their hands. Some of them silently pray for her safe return. You, however, are filled with a different kind of dread, hoping that she utter a word that could place both your lives in peril. 20 minutes crawl by, each moment stretching like an eternity. Finally, the man returns your wife, but he doesn't simply hand her back to you. Instead, he takes a seat, pours himself a glass of wine, and in front of the entire assembly coldly recounts the events that transpired in private. Your colleagues avert their gazes towards their plates, while your wife becomes a ghost, staring blankly into space. You are forced to smile in gratitude, to nod in acceptance, and to thank him for his so-called generosity, for the alternative would be watching your children's lives extinguished. This is not mere madness. This is a finely tuned machine designed to obliterate the human spirit. The architect of this cruelty is no other than Caligula, a man who honed his prowess for manipulation and domination while witnessing the dismantling of his own family under the tyranny of the previous emperor. What he inflicted upon Rome was so heinous that even to millennia later, scholars grapple with the depths of his psychological warfare. If you believe that history's darkest figures deserve remembrance, consider subscribing for more insights like these. Now, let us delve deeper into the man who transformed cruelty into a form of art, a tale that soon unveils horrors more chilling than you can fathom. The most unsettling part, the system he established has outlived him. A childhood forged in fear in the year 14 AD, a young boy runs through his father's military encampment clad in a miniature legionary uniform. Weathered soldiers, hardened by battles and conquests, lift him high into the air, affectionately calling him Caligula, or Little Boots. As the son of Germanicus, Rome's most adored general, he basks in adoration, he feels invincible. But he is blissfully unaware of how quickly that facade will shatter. Tragedy strikes a mere year later, when Germanicus dies officially from illness, but perhaps more sinisterly, at the hands of those envious of his legacy. Aged only 8 Caligulas, world begins to crumble as his mother is accused of treason and whisked away. One brother succumbs to starvation in prison, desperately trying to consume the stuffing of his mattress, while another is exiled and tortured to the point of self-destruction. One by one, his family disappears, leaving him alone. By 19, Caligula stands as the last living member of his bloodline. Then comes an order from Emperor Tiberius, the orchestrator of his family's demise. Caligula is summoned to live on Capri, a fortress island known for its treacherous atmosphere of paranoia and decadence. Among astrologers, flatterers, and predators, he acquires a singular skill that will define his rise: the art of suppressing all traces of humanity. As Suetonius later notes, there never was a better servant or a worse master. For the next 6 years, Caligula buries his emotions deep inside. And when Tiberius dies in 37 AD, whether naturally or by Caligula's doing, this previously subdued hostage ascends to the throne. Rome erupts in joy, believing they have crowned the son of their beloved. Germanicus, unaware that they have enthroned a young man who has spent years mastering the dark arts of tyranny under one of Rome's most notorious leaders. Initially, he governs with a light hand for 7 months, but upon falling ill, he awakens transformed. The cause of his metamorphosis remains a mystery, but it unleashes a torrent of psychological torment that will plunge Rome into uncharted terrors. Act 1, the cult of the sister goddess Caligula, had 3 sisters, but among them, Drusilla stood apart. Ancient texts murmur of incestuous relationships. Whether truth or political fabrication matters, little Caligula reveled in the whispers. When Drusilla passed away, his grief was all-consuming. But rather than simply mourn her, he transformed his sorrow into a weapon of control. He persuaded the Senate to declare Drusilla a goddess, complete with temples demanding public worship. He instituted a period of mourning so extreme that it became absurd. Laughing was made a crime punishable by death. Sharing a family meal became a capital offense. Every expression of joy morphed into a potential death sentence. Caligula discovered he could criminalize emotions and legally dictate the inner lives of his subjects. Feeling empowered by his newfound abilities, he began to push the limits of what he could extract from his citizens. Ancient texts claim that Caligula constructed a brothel within the palace not for personal indulgence, but as an establishment for public use. Staff comprised the sons and daughters of Rome's elite families. Heralds proclaimed prices in the streets, with special rates for virgins. Every transaction was meticulously cataloged: names, dates, familial connections. Bureaucracy had become a weapon in service of humiliation. To Rome's aristocrats, honor and lineage were sacred, their very identities woven into these legacies. Now their daughters were being reduced to commodities for public sale. Resistance or dissent was not an option. Silence became the only form of survival. What the emperor uncovered, however, was an even more potent force than public humiliation. Act 3. The banquet of predation. Imagine sitting at an imperial banquet, your wife beside you, surrounded by 50 senators sipping wine that tastes of fear. Caligula stands, his cold gaze sweeping the room before landing on your wife. Without a word, he extends his hand to her and leads her away, leaving you paralyzed. Protesting means death. Expressing outrage or sorrow means your wife's life is at stake. So you endure the torment in silence. When she returns, he describes smirking in clinical every detail of what transpired. Your colleagues stare daggers into their plates. Your wife seeks solace in the void. You force yourself to laugh at his inane jokes, your identity and dignity stripped bare for all to witness. He doesn't merely violate your wife, he dismantles your very essence. Tomorrow, you will have to face the senators with a facade of normalcy, as if nothing has transpired. This was the malevolent genius of the system, shared trauma fostering a web of silence and complicity. In this universe, fear anchored everyone to each other. But Caligula was only beginning to explore the depths of his sadism. Act for the grieving father as boredom and irritation take hold. Caligula begins executing people on a whim. He revels in forcing a father to watch his own son's execution, deriving pleasure from the man's despair. And this was just the beginning. Suetonius recounts chilling tales where fathers were summoned to dine with Caligula immediately following the executions of their children. With their child's body still warm, they were obliged to sit across from the killer, forced to smile and engage in conversation, obliged to pretend that their world had not just collapsed, because to grieve was itself a crime. Caligula did not merely take lives. He obliterated the very essence of human empathy and love. He transformed grief into a weapon, ensuring that even love became a perilous act. And then, in his arrogance, he made a crucial misstep. Act 5. The wrong man. Cassius Chaerea, a senior officer of the Praetorian Guard, was a frequent target of Caligula's derision, constantly mocked for his high-pitched voice. This ongoing humiliation became a toxic poison. To Caligula, it was merely trivial amusement. However, to Chaerea, the derision was intolerable. Caligula miscalculated something essential. Senators could endure humiliation, but soldiers could not. Day after day, Chaerea stood at Caligula's side, a sword at his hip. The emperor had succeeded in convincing him that life under this tyrant was unbearable. On January 24th, 41 AD, as Caligula exited the theater through a narrow passage, Chaerea advanced and asked for the day's password. Caligula, in his characteristic arrogance, spat a scornful reply his final words. With a cry of "Take this," Chaerea lunged forward, his blade aimed true. In an instant, conspirators descended upon Caligula with 30 stab wounds. 4 years of terror extinguished in the span of 60 seconds. But the monstrous machine continued its operation. Caligula's wife, Caesonia, met her end. His young daughter, Julia Drusilla, was brutally killed, ensuring that no heir remained to seek retribution. For a fleeting moment, Rome drew a breath of relief. Senators debated whether to restore the Republic. However, the Praetorian Guard stumbled upon Claudius Caligula's overlooked uncle, cowering behind a curtain. Thus, they crowned him emperor. The machine merely selected a new operator. The blueprint outlives the builder. Caligula ruled for 3 years, 9 months, and 8 days, a mere footnote in the grand saga of Roman history. Yet his chilling legacy persists because he illustrated a horrifying truth: a government's laws. Armies and institutions can be twisted into agents of psychological manipulation and dominance not by dismantling the system, but by perverting it from within. A bureaucratic nightmare, the mourning laws, instruments of law enforcement, the banquets, performative displays of imperial authority. Every atrocity committed was permissible, for he embodied the law. When he was made to fall, nothing of substance altered. Nero, Domitian, Commodus, Elagabalus. The foundational blueprint endured. The machine evolved, and Rome never forgot the critical lesson taught by Caligula: when one individual wields complete control, the only limit on cruelty is the depths of one's imagination. Claudius later destroyed most of Caligula's records, but fragments remain an incomplete jigsaw of his horrors, composed of memories and rumors penned years later. Thus, the atrocities we know might only hint at a fraction of his actual reign. Caligula did not simply govern Rome, constructed a model that would fascinate and educate future tyrants for centuries. A mechanism that continues to find contemporary expressions in various forms. This leads to one haunting query: if a machine like this could be constructed once, what prevents it from being recreated anew? Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to support our work and never miss an upload. Like this video, drop a comment, and share it.